Okay, today we're going to be talking about writing a summary paragraph. So, what is a summary paragraph? A summary paragraph is a brief account of the main points of a reading or text. And this is something that we've practiced for looking at main ideas of texts. So, right now, what we're going to focus on is the main points of a reading or text. So, how do we know what the main points are? What we're going to do is we're going to look for the 5 W's, and you may have heard these before: who, what, when, where, and why. So let's start with the who and what. Who is this person? What is their name? What was their family like? And this is where you're going to see a lot of their early life details. Then we want to talk about what did they do? Did they invent something? Were they part of a famous speech? Did they do something that changed the course of history? And what were they like? Maybe they had certain characteristics about them that were unique. And what did they do? So the when and where. Where did it happen? Where did they spend most of their life? Where were they born? If they have died, include their final resting place. And this is a place where we don't want to include little places that they might have been at for just a small portion of time. We're talking about the significant places in time. Then we want to talk about time. So when did this happen? When were they born? When did they die? Maybe they're still even alive today. And when did they famously do something? This would include important speeches, maybe a discovery or an invention, or other significant dates. And then why? Why is this person important? What did they do to become famous? And how have they changed the world? And we kind of sneak that how into there because it's not part of our 5 W's, but why and how kind of go together. So, why and how? Why did they become famous? Or how did they influence others or change the world? So, when we talk about a summary, imagine this. Imagine that your teacher read you a long story to the class and you really liked it. Now you're at recess and a friend asks you, "What was that story about?" Would you tell them the entire story from cover to cover, from start to finish? No, that would take forever. So you summarize. And this is something you probably do already that you don't even notice you're doing. So what we're practicing today is putting those thoughts on paper. Now, to do that, we're going to think back to the 5 W's: the who, what, when, where, and why. And of course, sometimes our how. And you want to think in this order: early life. So, when and where were they born? What was their family like? Adult life. Where were they living? Did they have an easy or difficult life? Lots of times people come across some really tricky situations, and what they maybe developed later in life had to do with the problems or situations that arose in their adult life or even in their early life. Then we're going to move on to key life events. So, key life events are things that changed their course of action. Maybe they were arrested, or maybe they came across some type of challenge. And then lastly, their accomplishments. What did they do that changed the course of history? Did they give a famous speech or invent something very important? So, here is an example summary paragraph about Neil Armstrong. So, imagine you just read a couple different sources about all sorts of different information about Neil Armstrong, and this would include pages and pages. If we just wanted to summarize our paragraph, it could look something like this. Neil Armstrong was a famous astronaut. He was born in Wapakoneta, Ohio in 1930. As a kid, Neil Armstrong dreamed of being a pilot. As an adult, he served in the Korean War as a fighter pilot. He became an astronaut after working as a test pilot for many years and applying to the NASA Astronaut Corps. His first spaceflight was on the Gemini 8. Then, in 1968, he launched to the moon on the Apollo 11. He was the first man to walk on the moon. After his safe return to Earth, he worked for NASA for many years. He died in 2012 in Cincinnati, Ohio. So now it's your turn. We have two really great articles this week, and you're going to read these articles and come up with two separate summary paragraphs talking about, remember, those 5 W's.